And my guest today is Quan Ho, and Quan is going to talk about why he decided to partner with Feldcare as a therapist. Quan, thanks for stopping by. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you, Neil?
Fantastic. So let's kind of just jump in really, Quan, to why did you want to become an occupational therapist? What
Oh,
was the reasoning for that?
well, physical therapist, but yeah,
Physical. I'm so
I work,
physical. I'm sorry about that.
we
Yeah.
work a lot with occupational therapists, and sometimes it's difficult. But I mean, I guess my story, most stories for PTs, we're all athletes at one point. We get hurt, we go to the PT, we go to the clinic. But how I pivoted to like kind of home health was I met a lot of good mentors along the way from undergrad all the way to graduate school, and it seemed like a good niche. The pace was good for me, kind of like the lifestyle I wanted to live, like kind of controlling the schedule I wanted. And yeah, I had really good mentors, and they told me most PTs think they'll be working with like Division I athletes, pro NFL players or basketball players, but I mean, I work with your abuelo or abuela. It's a change of pace, and I find like I like it a whole lot more. That's everyone has their own niche. Yeah,
Absolutely. And what made you be involved in home health and partner with Feldcare?
yeah.
What?
So Feldcare, um, it was a job listing. I was with a different company, and I mean, I won't name them or anything, but they kind of burned me a little bit. You know when you're treated wrong, when you're getting taken advantage of. And I just applied as a contractor to one of like their listings. I got a phone call. It went really well, and they made me a really good offer, and I took it. And it was a growing product. I think Feldcare back then. I've been doing this for close to 7 years at this point. So Feldcare, this was probably about 6 years ago. Feldcare was still kind of coming in its own, but I could tell like they knew how to treat like therapists right. And yeah, job interview, and then they started sending me patients, and I haven't really looked back since.
And that's fantastic. That's something where you do it and see it. But before, the company you were with before, was that involved in home health too?
It
Yes.
was. Yeah.
Yes. So that experience of that transition from, being in a traditional type of job, working as a PT to going home health. How are those differences, and how do you what do you like, and what are the bigger challenges for you?
Right. So I'll answer that question, but when I started off as a PT, I had the opportunity to work in kind of like the three major settings of PT, which was outpatient, like your typical sports clinic, outpatient clinic. I worked per diem at a hospital, which was more like your post-surgical med surge floors, intensive care units. I worked that, and I worked home health. Man, the pacing is what's different. Sometimes I'd be swamped in the clinic or a hospital with 3 to 4 patients an hour. That doesn't set you up for success. Imagine splitting your time between 3 to 4 patients who are all deserving of good care, and you just can't. Like the time, like you got to keep up with productivity ratings and that versus home health. You're literally just one on one with a patient or a client. You could you can pretty accommodate to like their needs. You could listen, and yeah, a whole lot of the patients I work with, I don't even speak the same language as them. But just through that osmosis and interaction, I could see what their problem is. Oh, you have low back pain. Oh, I have difficulty walking. I can't pick up my grandson. Like things like that. Like you pick up, and like it helps you use your toolbox and your tools to help this person. And that's like a very rewarding part of home health. At least from my perspective. You'll find therapists that kind of would say the opposite, but that's just
Yeah.
them. Everyone, like I said in the beginning, everyone has their own niche. But I just find that home health gives me that one-on-one interaction with the patient, and it sets me up for success as a physical therapist. And
Exactly.
it's
So for people that are right now, we're in your spot before you transition to home health, why should they consider partnering with Feldcare?
because they just make it so easy. Like home health is hard because it does take a lot of organizational skills. You're scheduling for the next day, you got documentation you got to finish. And it's a steep learning curve, but once you get there, it's just it just works well. I just had a toddler, and like I have time for him. That's I could help my wife. I could do errands like yeah, and And plus it pays pretty well too. I don't want to say money's it's all about the money, but like when you're graduating graduate school or PT school with 200,000 dollars in debt, and you can only make 30 to 40 to maybe $50 an hour at a clinic or a hospital, like home health like gives you that extra bump and boost. And it yeah, like I tell Randy this all the time, like she's the reason I was able to buy a house. It's the reason like support my wife and my son and they can stay at home. It's financially very enticing too. And you get what you put in. If you work hard, you'll make your money. You'll be able to take care of your family. And yeah, like that's so there's obviously a financial incentive, and Feldcare does pay pretty well in comparison to other companies. Yeah,
Interesting that you say that, and then also what they bring logistically to the table. And that means with Clinique Connects, the ability that some other home health agencies don't have that ability and the scheduling and the organization that Feldcare is able to help someone like yourself.
yeah. Clinic Connects is a great system. Like, right, it's I would compare it almost like Uber. If you're an Uber driver, you can click on or like Uber Eats, what like you could pick what you want. If I want a patient, if I'm willing to drive all the way out to Beverly Hills or like somewhere in Los Angeles. I don't know if you're from the East Coast.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
But
so I mean, like, so I live actually pretty far from where I work, but I could choose to work out there for a little bit higher rate, or I could choose to work closer to home. It's all very strategic. Like in the future, if my son has like a soccer game, I might take patients closer home. I might only see two patients that day instead of 10 or 12. It gives you a lot of opportunity, and that's what Feldcare and Clinic Connect offers. Like you could work as much or as little as you want. I'm a blue collar guy. My dad was a postal worker. He woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he worked until he came home. I'm not in that same situation, but I have that same dog in me. I want to work right now, and I have that opportunity with Feldcare.
to
You
get
know,
enough hours too. And that's the thing, and be able to have the flexibility to say, I can work when I want, and that's it. And I'm my own boss in so many ways. And that's so much different than working in a clinic
right,
where
right,
you're set to the structure and you can't tailor it for that patient like you can with healthcare.
yeah, I
That's,
agree.
that's
You're spot
key.
on there.
And so what, so it seems like it's a no-brainer for people that are looking, that are therapists to decide to partner with Feldcare and get out of the grind.
It is true. I don't mean to kind of go off the script, but I mean there are cons to it as well. So I mean I'll just kind of put this out there. I don't know if you're familiar with South Central LA or like so. In comparison, one patient I might be in a very nice home, 5,000 square feet home in like Beverly Hills, or I could be in a Section 8 housing or on Skid Row seeing a patient as well. I mean, you make those choices. If I was a 100-pound blonde female, I probably would not go to a patient out in
Yeah. At
like
least you have the choice. I didn't have the choice when I was a developmental therapist, birth to three back in the day, 20
yeah,
years ago in Pittsburgh. I had to
right,
go wherever they told me I'm going.
yeah,
Here's your
but you have
caseload, and that's it.
yeah. And there's another system of home health too. Like if you work for like a hospital system like Kaiser or PIH, they do have their own home health departments. You don't have that much leeway with them. If they got patients somewhere, you got to go. They treat their therapists right too, but you're still an employee with that hospital. Again, with Feldcare, Clean Connects, you are a independent contractor and you're a partner with them. So that's definitely a pro. You do what you feel is comfortable.
Exactly. And you've been doing this for so long, you
Yeah.
must love it.
Oh heck yeah. I wouldn't do it if I didn't.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, Quan. Thanks again. And people could go to feldcareconnects.com and contact the team if you're definitely interested in applying with Feldcare to partner with them. Appreciate it, Quan.
Yeah, appreciate you.
All right. That was a special